Hey everyone, it's T and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a video discussing kind of the back and forth going on between Terry Crews and Gabrielle Union. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the situation, around the same time Orlando Jones got fired from American Gods and he was speaking out about it, Gabrielle Union was also facing some issues with America's Got Talent, and she left the show citing a toxic work culture, like them giving her notes all the time about her hair and things like that, and it just being a toxic environment for her. And she spoke up about it, basically saying that, she wasn't going to turn around and act like a happy Negro, which were her words, for a check, which is understandable. Like, no one should have to work under conditions that seem hostile, especially for, Black women. It's really difficult for us sometimes to be in a workplace and be expected to act a certain way or do a certain thing, or in any kind of situation just be expected to perform a certain way, which we don't want to perform, or make adjustments in areas that we don't want to make adjustments to. So completely understandable. She did end up leaving the show. And if you noticed in my American Gods video, she and Jones were talking back and forth about their situations, supporting each other. And I believe America's Got Talent and American Gods are owned or put on by the same production company, which I believe is Fremantle. So both of their cases are being investigated by the Screen Actors Guild due to their claims of the toxicity of the workplaces. Anyway, what happened with Terry Crews was he decided that he was going to go on TV, I believe it was the Today Show, and kind of openly defend what's been happening with America's Got Talent. Basically, what Crews is cited as saying on the show was that, first of all, I can't speak for sexism because I'm not a woman, but I can speak on behalf of any racism comments, Crews said. That was never my experience on America's Got Talent. In fact, it was the most diverse place I have ever been in my 20 years of entertainment. So, it's kind of funny because even though Crews cited the winners being super diverse and the people coming on the show being super diverse, young, old, black, white, with varying talents and things like that, that may not be the case behind the scenes, which is what Union was trying to say. She did end up tweeting the day after that Crews made his statements that, can someone please ask about what happened to all that diversity folks are talking about behind the scenes? Like, legit, where the hell is all that diversity in the production, though, homie? In the decision-making ranks who control the fate of the diversity in front of the camera. In another tweet she added, why anyone would gleefully get up on TV and tell lies that no one disputed, but we already know. That doesn't exactly fare well with him, considering that Union did back him when all his sexual assault stuff was coming out. She was one of the first people to support him, to have his back, and now he's turning around instead of saying something like, oh, well, I myself never personally experienced any racism, so I can't personally speak for that, but I'm sad to hear that my friend has had a bad experience with that, and I hope the situation is resolved. Or he could have just not said anything at all. Like, not everything merits a discussion, especially within, a workplace situation that you don't have anything to do with. Sometimes it's just best to stay silent. Like, if it's got nothing to do with you, just stay silent. Just don't say anything at all if you don't have anything positive to add to the situation. And just because what you've experienced is different than what another person experienced doesn't mean that it can't coexist. Like, for example, with me being a nerd girl, I've never had too many instances until, being older like I am now, where men would quiz me about things. Like, there was one situation where I was wearing an Attack on Titan jacket that I have that I really love, and someone I knew, a male, asked me, did I know what it was from? And I was like, yeah, Attack on Titan, duh. And then, they proceeded to try to quiz me about it. And he was a guy I was dating that kind of assumed I didn't really know anything about James Bond, and it was just kind of weird to quizzed. But while that wasn't the bulk of my experience, to be grilled about nerd stuff to prove that I'm a fan of something doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to other nerd girls or other women who have interest in nerdy things or nerdy fandoms. I would never go out and say, that doesn't happen, that's bullshit. So for him to go out of his way to just be like, oh, well, that didn't happen, like, just because it wasn't your experience doesn't mean that it negates from her experience. So Cruz ended up tweeting out or subtweeting about the situation. I'm a hog, you're a chicken. Just 'cause you gave me eggs don't mean I owe you bacon. Ancient Flint, Michigan proverb. And that's also pretty problematic. Like, Cruz obviously doesn't owe Gabrielle Union anything, but she was one of the first people to back him when he came out about his sexual assault case. She didn't blame him. She didn't say, oh, well, I think you're making that up. That's bullshit. That's not my experience that this happens to men in Hollywood. She just simply was like, you have my support and I'll ride for you. Like I said, he doesn't owe her for that. He doesn't have to ride with her, but to go out and then say that, oh, just because you did something for me doesn't mean that I have to do something for you. And then to kind of say that, oh, hey, I'm of more status than you. I'm a pig, and me giving you bacon is more grueling than you giving me eggs. It's not the same comparison. So it honestly baffles me that he would say that kind of thing. All he had to do was just either, like I said, stay silent, or just said, this wasn't my experience, or this isn't my experience with the show, but, I'm sorry to hear that happened to her and that she left under these circumstances. I hope things get resolved. He also tweeted out later, Terry Crews, that and this is his direct quote, and there's a misspelling, so sorry if I say it wrong. There is only one woman, one earth I have to please. He tweeted on this past Monday. Her name's Rebecca, not my mother, my sister, my daughters are co-workers. I will let their husbands, boyfriends, partners take care of them. Rebecca gives me wing. And Rebecca is Terry's wife. I mean, no one's asking for him to ride for Gabrielle Union. No one's asking him to please her or anyone else. And then to insinuate that only women who are partnered, who have boyfriends, partners, spouses, have to have those people ride for them. It's also kind of shitty. Like, not everyone who has this kind of situation is partnered. Does that mean that they have less worth? That other men shouldn't be riding for them if that's the case? Like, that's not very cool to say. But it just kind of sucks that he would say, oh, well, let someone else take care of them. And again, he's under no obligation to back her or ride with her or do anything for her. But at the same time, it's like, why would you even say anything if you're not going to be supportive when she was supportive of you? And even his wife told him, well, if she hasn't really made an official statement, why are you making a statement? Why would you make a statement? Which is correct. So there was a bunch of solutions to this. He could have just not answered. He could have deflected and said, hey, this isn't my experience, but sorry. Or just, like I said nothing at all. I just think it's interesting now that when someone who supported him and backed him when he was having his moment of coming out and speaking out against something important, that he won't take the same energy and back someone else. Again, he's under no obligation to, but just the fact that he went out of his way sort of to just be like, oh, whoop, that didn't happen to me. Let their husband or whatever back them. You're a fucking chicken and I'm a pig. I'm more important. It just baffles me. And it's really sad considering how people, particularly black women, were holding him up, were backing him, were giving them all all their love and support, and then he turns around and just basically turns his back on a woman who's been supporting him. I mean, clearly there's some merit to her words or her allegations if it's being investigated. I'm not sure why he would treat it like there's no merit at all. It's just baseless accusations. Because if it was just baseless accusations, there wouldn't be an investigation into it. I just think it was a messy situation, and it didn't have to be a messy situation if Terry Crews just simply either shut his mouth, or if he just, politely just said, hey, not my experience, but at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. Let me know what your thoughts on the situation. Do you think Terry's wrong? Do you think he's right? Do you think he should have maybe said something else or just not have said anything at all? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye, bye, bye.